So we're both very, very liberal people.
Yeah, that's the thing. On top of this, some people would automatically assume we're conservatives. Like, we're not, though. We're just not fucking idiots.
Right. That's the thing. It's like, we're actually really liberal guys. Here's the thing. We're very nuanced, and we're willing to dive in that nuance where others are not.
No.
You're the best big brother I could have ever asked for.
Yo, we're back in the house. I'm Austin, that's Alex. We're sadly related. If you couldn't tell by the name, we're brothers. Fucking. Speaking of neck beards, how you doing?
First of all, I have no beard on my neck.
Neither do I.
Yeah, my beard's on my chin where it's supposed to be.
So you're not a face curtain?
No. No.
Nice.
I also have a neck, so that helps.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a chin, so that helps.
You know who doesn't have a neck? That one guy from what the fuck is it even called? 90 Day Fiance?
90 Day Fiance, yeah.
Ed, I think his name was?
Yes. No neck Ed.
No, that's what we're calling him?
I don't know if that's his nickname.
I don't know about all that. But Oh, I did hide it. Okay, cool. So we're setting things up a little bit here. So we're going to do something a little weird. So if you were here for the last draft, what did we even draft? I forget.
It was...
it was U.S. states to soccer teams.
Yes.
And we actually had very similar strategies, which was kind of cool. So today, we're going to harken back to our favorite, the state we're most familiar with in Florida. Having lived there I was there for 12 years. You were there for...
12, 13.
13.
I was there from age 12 to 23.
That's right, because you moved here in 2018.
11, I guess.
And then before that, you floated around a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, having been there for half of my life and a solid 40% of his, we know the state kind of like the back of our hand at this point. So we're going to draft cities with a pretty loose definition of what a city is. And we're going to draft a basketball team out of it, a starting five, if you will. So I'm going to pull up the map of Florida right now. Ba-da-bop. Let's make that a little bit bigger. There you go. So we got a map of Florida. And, yeah. For you, I'm actually going to pull this up separate so you can see it better.
I mean, I already know Florida cities.
I mean, yeah, but just for,
All right.
Whatever's sake.
All right.
That's it's a little bigger for you.
All right.
But it's going to be a good time. Oh, we need to determine who's going to get the first pick.
That's what I was going to ask or say. You can go ahead and do the first pick. I'm just going to give it to you.
Oh, okay. Then I'll take...
Are we going to just back and forth because we don't really need to do a snake?
Well, a snake technically is the most fair.
Well, yeah, but it's 5 people.
I'd rather do a snake.
All right.
I get 1, you get 2 and 3, I get 4 and 5, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
All right, we'll just hop right into it. With the number 1 pick, I'm going to take Orlando.
Of course you would.
What does that even mean? What does that even mean? What is that?
I'm going to go ahead and take Miami and Tampa.
Okay. Let me look at. I'm gonna take Jacksonville and Tallahassee.
Okay. I'm gonna go with Gainesville.
Okay.
And Sarasota. Sure.
Interesting pick.
Sure.
I know Jacksonville and Tallahassee. I have. You took Tampa and Miami. I'm gonna take Daytona.
Okay.
And
you're probably not gonna. I'm probably not gonna take what you're thinking of. So
I'm not even thinking about you right now.
No, I know. But you could probably choose both, is what I'm saying.
I'm going to take... Well, I only have 1 pick left.
Oh.
And I'm going to take Port St. Lucie.
Okay. I'll take Key West.
Okay, walk me through the Key West pick.
What? Right. So... All right, so the people in Key West, some would describe them as freaks and fairies, which I don't think is entirely wrong. But they're just out there to have fun. They're out there, they're crazy, they're out there to have fun. You know who else likes to have fun? Dennis Rodman. So, and he was a forward.
I really can't argue with that logic. That's pretty good. So I like how you ended up at Dennis Rodman with Key West. That's actually pretty accurate. I mean, there's like no black people in Key West, but other than that,
Well, there's barely any black people in Florida, in all honesty. You might have some dark skin.
south of Orlando, yes.
You might have some dark skinned Hispanics.
a
But
lot of black people are in the Panhandle. I found.
I could see that.
That's just an
It's right
observation.
well,
I
it's
have no
right
actual data for that.
Well, it's right next to like Georgia and Mississippi, Alabama.
That's what I was.
Louisiana.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
and those have a yeah. Anyway,
Okay.
so I picked Orlando #1 as my center.
That's why I said of
Shaq
course.
and Dwight Howard.
Yep, that's why I said of
both
course.
went through there, so I was like, that feels like a good fit.
Yep.
I took Jacksonville as my power forward. Jacksonville is actually the biggest metropolitan area in Florida. I found out, and it's like not
In
close.
terms of geography or
in terms of
popul-
population size. Yeah,
It cannot be the most densely populated. There's no fucking
not
way.
densely populated,
Well, that's what I was saying.
but the
Just
most
'cause-
people.
Well, that's because Jacksonville's probably very large geographically.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
therefore, it's like Dallas.
Kind of.
Dallas is very large
but
geographically.
it's not a very dense place.
Yeah.
Once you leave like Loop 12,
Right.
right?
Okay. All right.
So it's just big.
Yeah.
Power forward, big. Tallahassee apparently has the highest concentration of adults with a bachelor's degree or higher within their population. So they're the smartest of the group. I picked them as my point guard, the
Okay.
decision maker.
Okay.
I took Daytona. Daytona was my shooting guard. And I thought about taking Fort Lauderdale instead, but then you took Miami, which took away some of that synergy I was looking for. So I was like, Daytona. So when I think of Miami, I think Daytona has some of the similar spring break ability promises that Miami holds. It's obviously not Miami. Nothing is Miami other than Miami. But I think Daytona's got a little jazz to it, and some of
You
the
like jazz?
I like jazz. Shooting guards. Here was the actual logic. I just remembered. My actual logic for shooting guard was spring break places are where you go to shoot your shot. Shoot or shoot. Daytona's my shooting guard.
All right.
Very old school style player from the 80s, but he's still got a good stroke.
Okay. All right.
And then Port St. Lucie, I took as my small forward. I'm going my team plays in the early 90s. And maybe, early 90s, maybe into the early 2000s where big men dominated the league. Where your point guard had to be good at distributing the ball but didn't have to do a ton else. And your small forward was, at most, there to get rebounds. You're not asking him. Other than Scottie Pippen, who was the point forward, but he was kind of the exception to the rule. And then, So I'm in a very 1990s big man, other than MJ's Bulls, you know who the best or the team with the most championships in the 90s was? The Rockets. And it was the Tears that MJ was retired. And those were led by big man Hakeem Olajuwon.
Okay.
So big man, and then after that was Shaq's Lakers, Shaq and Kobe's Lakers, mostly Shaq though. So big man era. I'm playing in the big man era, and it seems like you're going a little more. It feels like you're going a little more small ball. Tactic.
We'll see. So you put Orlando as your center.
Yeah.
I had a similar thought for Tampa. Because what are the cities? What are the cities that you think of when you think of Florida, just in general?
Tampa, Orlando, Miami.
Exactly.
Are my top three.
Exactly. So
Yes.
Miami's too crazy. I put them as a forward. Miami and Key West are my forwards.
Okay.
Personalities, they're big personalities. They're out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Center, you want it to be grounded. You want to have just a solid defense and offense. You know, good passing skills, all that jazz.
The big fundamental,
Yeah.
as they call them.
Tampa. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm starting to follow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tampa culturally is a very middle of the road
Yep.
kind of
It's
place.
it's a place.
It's politically fairly split.
Yep.
It's pretty. You don't hear a lot of crazy. Like you hear Florida man. There's honestly not a lot of Florida man going on in Tampa.
No, it's all from Miami.
It's like Okeechobee town.
Yeah, it's
all
like
Florida
it's
man.
either bumfuck nowhere or
it's
Miami.
It's either from like Pensacola, because you can look at the map here. It's either like Pensacola to Panama City, or just south of Lake Okeechobee. There's like nothing in the middle.
That's what I had. Sarasota and Gainesville.
There's a lot of crack in the middle,
That's true.
but there's not a lot of Florida man. Those are two different things.
So, I would put Gainesville as my point guard.
Duh. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I figured.
Yeah, and then Sarasota is just my shooting guard because I needed to fill a position.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, that's what Sarasota is,
Yeah.
right? You fill a position.
Yep. So,
Although I think Sarasota sells tickets. I think. Because, like, how many people have you spoken to that were like, oh, yeah, my grandparents have a house down there.
or my parents live in
Or my
Clearwater.
aunt has
or
a vacation home on Casey Key.
Yeah, something like
or
that.
whatever
right.
the fuck.
Like there's Sarasota. It's a fairly grounded area, but it's because it's right near a beach and it's right near a very popular beach. It's got that tinge of personality, craziness.
Just
to
a
it,
little bit.
Just a little bit.
The drum circle mostly.
Exactly. So.
Yeah, the village right next to Key West. That's
Yep,
fun.
yep.
Or not, Siesta Key.
Yep.
It's too many keys. We need to come up with better names than Key. I was watching Greg Doucette video, and he was making fun of TikTok fitness. And one of the guys on the TikTok fitness was wearing a Key Largo shirt. And I was like, of course you live in Key Largo. You don't have an actual job. By the way, if you grew up in Key Largo, you don't have a job now. Because you don't have to get one.
Yeah.
That end of story. So what do? TikTok fitness. Cringe.
No, Austin, you just need to invest your money. You know, you need to get a passive income. You know what's funny? You know how you get, how you invest money? Have money to begin with.
Have money. Yeah, right.
Have money to begin
right?
with.
You know what you're...
It's so easy to start a business when you already have a business or have money that was gifted to you.
I was just talking to someone who was roasting their roommate's boyfriend because apparently he dropped out of Ole Miss, which is not an impressive school anyway.
It's
He dropped out of Ole Miss and now like has his own business in the construction world. And I'm like, you do realize how much capital it takes to get even in the door in real estate development or contracting?
yeah. Oh, so you know what's just kind of as an aside on that. So I was at the bar, working at the bar. One of the clients who's a regular works for Raytheon.
Yeah.
He was in the military beforehand, and now he works some desk job at Raytheon. And
Sure.
he's like, it's a job, but he was complaining to me how he's
That's how
like,
I felt at Raytheon.
he's complaining to me, being like, you know, it's just the same shit over and over, just different people, and it's just getting super tiring and boring and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And he's like, I kind of want to open a barbershop like this, and
That'd
like
be cool.
get a franchise. He goes, but it's like, you know, it's a minimum of 3 locations. He wants to do it in like the Houston area. It's like minimum of 3 locations per the contract he would get, but to open each one, but to open each one, well, Tanner has to open 8, and we're on the 3rd one, and and he can go up to 12.
Has to open 8. What the fuck is that contract? What the fuck?
It's family friends.
I know I get that, but still.
But so anyways,
That's a lot of overhead
this-
for...
well, this guy looked into it. He said it's about $350 to
Yeah.
open one of those things.
Yeah.
Which is, yeah. So he goes, I would put myself in like $1.5 million in debt to,
Just to open 3 barbershops?
he goes, but if I were to make as much money as I do at my current job, oh, it's easy. I would totally do that.
Yeah.
He goes, just how much do I hate my job? It's like, exactly. How much do you hate
Also,
your job?
So, just full disclosure, I'm $14,000 in the hole in student loans. Multiplying that by 100 gives me a heart attack.
Yeah. Well, it's
what?
But like So I, with
That's why I won't survive in this game. I'm not willing to take these risks. I'm not a shark. You gotta be a shark. There's a tiger inside you, and he's $5 million in the hole, and he cashes out at $2.5 million and blocks his dad's number, takes the profit.
So there's, so just kind of over time telling people my life story over the past few years, and how I'm like the bartender there, but I only work part time and stuff like that. And it's super interesting to hear people, like I've heard multiple people be like, yeah, I'm just not happy with my life. I thought the white picket fence life was what I wanted, and I want to do all these other things. I want to do blah, blah,
Fuck
blah,
a
blah,
white
blah.
picket fence life.
And I'm just like, yeah. And the thing is, they're my age. They're now coming to this conclusion, and I had it like 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So I'm like, and some of them have kids. I was like,
That's a hard anchor to drag
that's
around.
the thing, man. That's why you don't have kids young. That's just why. Because you don't fucking know what you want to do.
Don't have kids.
You
and
don't
they're suffering
know.
Permanently.
I'm at the age where our parents had me.
Yeah.
And it's weird. And I'm just like, I still don't want kids. I mean, I know what I want to do with life, but those aspirations are bigger than me having kids. I don't give a shit.
Probably.
Yeah. Like and I want to put work into that rather than having to raise a kid or whatever. Because it's not fulfilling to me. But it's just like that's I've heard these stories over and over and over again, and it's super interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. I find myself leaning toward wanting to have kids one day, but that's that's over there.
Yeah.
I got at least a decade before that happens.
Yeah.
So
But
boy.
so that's the draft.
that was a real quick one.
Who do you think would win between our
Oh,
teams?
mine for sure.
Sure. I don't know enough about basketball.
Well, okay. Look at the teams again. Yeah, mine.
So for those who don't know, I played soccer for 20 years. I played basketball when I was a kid for 5. And I still don't know any of the positions, so I had to do research last night on what the positions were. And what I pretty much came down to, I was like, what's something in like soccer that I can relate this to? And what it pretty much came down to was like, oh, it's just 5 midfielders. You have to be you just have to be good at playing basketball because the court is so small and there's only 5 people.
Relative to the
You can't have really specialized positions. There's only 5 people. There's only 5 people.
You can.
There's
If you have a Chris Paul and a Yao Ming, then yeah.
Well, there's a guy who's probably really good at shooting, and the rest are like good at shooting. But it's just like, okay,
I don't know, dude. There's some dudes in the league that can't fucking shoot.
maybe, but it's just
but they also can dunk without jumping. So
yeah.
You know,
But they all have to be good at defense. They all have to be good at offense too. It's like it's just you just have to be good at playing the game.
If I could build a basketball team that was just 12 dudes who were 6'6" and could all just hoop, then like that would be perfect.
Yeah. Would you rather be good on a suck team or suck on a good team?
I honestly would rather be good on a suck team.
I go back and forth.
I honestly,
I've been on both.
No, because I'd rather just play the game.
The thing is, though,
I get the most enjoyment out of playing. I like winning. Don't get me wrong, but
it's
I'd
hard.
rather make a living. Like, because think of.
But
all the training
how
you
well
have
are
to
you
do.
playing the game if everyone else sucks on your team?
Well, that's management's fault. That's not your fault.
No, but that's fine. But what I'm saying is it fun then if people keep fucking up?
Well, then you just do what? Who's the analogy I'm looking for? You just do what like Bradley Beal does on the Wizards. Just score 50 a night. just go fucking because you can.
But yeah, sure. But don't you then just get resentful of your other tearmates at a certain point? Like, come on, guys.
I think you're getting paid enough to ease the pain a little bit.
Maybe, I don't know. It's just
if I think Bradley Beal's making like 15, 16 mil a year. You know, it's like he's doing okay.
It's perspective, but at the same time, if you're there for the love of the game and you want to just play the game, but you can't because everyone else on your team is just shit.
But the thing, every win feels that much better.
Yeah, what all 2 wins of that season?
Well, you probably win at least like 16
out of how many?
82.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. So like a sixth of the games you win.
That's like one every 2 weeks. That's pretty good.
I just would feel.
If you won one out of every 2 games of football, it's a 500 season. Think of it that way. You're winning as many games as your friends who are in the NFL. That's pretty baller.
I don't like it.
And because there's less dudes on the court, you play both offense and defense. You actually are more responsible per win than your NFL teammates.
I'm not saying
Unless they're the quarterback.
I'm not saying you're
Probably.
wrong. It's just I feel like team chemistry would just not be there,
Oh, it's not.
which would annoy the shit out of me.
It
Because
would.
on a team sport,
No, you're not wrong.
so
Well, okay, so then that brings up the conversation of super teams, right? Because so LeBron and Anthony Davis and the reigning champion Lakers are over here. And then let's see how many of these names you recognize because they're all on the same team now. Kevin Durant, Blake Griffin, Kyrie Irving, James Harden, and DeAndre Jordan
yeah,
are all on the Nets right now.
yeah,
I can imagine the team chemistry's doing okay.
yeah. I'm sure it's fine.
Mainly because they're all really fucking good at basketball.
Yeah.
Like, they're all former All-Stars.
Yeah.
In fact, fun fact about DeAndre Jordan, he's the all-time leader in field goal percentage. He makes 76% of the shots he takes.
It's pretty good.
It's pretty fucking good.
It's pretty good. It's all right. It's all right.
We all know who Blake Griffin is. He jumped over the Kia.
me being 5'7", I could definitely do better.
Well, if the fucking Santa Monica Pier shooting contest has anything,
That's
you're
what I'm
probably doing
saying.
okay.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, my dude. Okay.
As long as I'm not pressured, I can just sink it.
easy, right?
Jacob would say I'm a horrible shooter because I generally am. Because like back when we would play in middle school and then somewhat in high school,
He just didn't have a shooting stroke.
I just didn't care.
No warm up. Flop.
No, I just didn't care, so I would just fucking yeet the ball at the fucking basket.
You dick.
So it's like it came off as like I was a horrible shooter, but I also just wasn't trying that hard.
So the ones that you actually did shoot, it was just.
No, it was just me just being like, oh, I'm gonna just fling it from half court, and then hopefully
All right,
someone's up.
Damian Lillard.
No, and then hopefully someone's up there to get the rebound because I'm not gonna be up there. I'm 5'7". So
Self-awareness is the key to happiness.
Exactly. Exactly, and I was even shorter in middle school. So
That's true. That's true. Booster seat looking ass.
yes, I think beginning of 7th grade, I was 4'9". My growth spurt put me up to 5'3", and then I eventually got to 5'7".
My growth spurt put me up to like 6'1".
I think I was 15 when I stopped growing.
Yeah. Well, no, I went from 5'3" to like 5'11", and then, yeah, just kind of fleshed out from there.
Yeah.
Reportedly, according to old friends from Florida, when I came back from freshman year of college, I was an inch taller.
Sure.
I doubt that. I
How
don't think that's true.
do you figure that out?
I don't know, because I didn't feel any taller.
Well, that and they didn't see you for how many months, and then they're like, "Oh no, I'm gonna use this exact measurement, very small
You're
increment,
taller. Okay.
an inch taller." I could see if you're like 3 or 4 inches taller.
Yeah, that's noticeable.
But an
right?
inch-
But if I go from 6'2" to 6'3", which I did not,
After not seeing you for a long time.
10 months.
Yeah, a long time.
Yeah, so
I think you just misremembered how tall he was.
yeah, I think. Whoa, was that small?
You're always small.
Have you seen the trend? It's like, hey babe, I think I figured out why my dick's so small. Well, why? You think my dick's small? Well, what I. There was also one I saw where in cringy TikTok memes.
So just TikTok memes.
TikTok memes. I saw one where there's a group of 5 people in a car, and the girl says to the guy that's driving, they're not dating, they're just friends. She says, "Hey babe, can you hand me the aux?" And he was just like, "The fuck did you just say to me?" And it hands her the aux. It was just like, I don't know what's going on. It just keeps driving. And so the other 2 of the friends are like, What? And then the 5th girl goes, "Why do you always like who I like?"
How old are these people?
They looked at least 17.
Because you know what's funny? Me and my best friend, female best friends, call each other babe a lot.
See, I never understood that. I don't.
It's a familiarity thing, I guess.
I'll tell you the most uncomfortable I've ever been being called
We also
babe.
say I love you to each other, but obviously in a friend way.
That's a different.
Yeah.
I was once called babe by my employer one time. So
That was weird.
it was a very benign thing. So God, how old was I? This was.
Were you sexually assaulted at work, Austin? Did you feel uncomfortable? Did you go to HR?
See, the irony is that this was at the Rape Crisis Center.
Yeah.
So, no, I was not assaulted.
No.
I wish.
How dare you make a joke about sexual assault, Austin?
She was single, I think. And I walk into work just on a Wednesday, and she's at her desk in her office, doors open, and she just looks up, and I wave, hi. She waves and goes, hey, babe. And I was like, I'm gonna keep walking. And so I'm 19. My guesstimate, she's 45.
All right.
I knew she was somewhere in her mid 40s. That's all I knew. And I sit on it for like 20 minutes, and then I asked,
Meaning her?
No,
Oh, the idea. Oh, okay.
the idea of her, the concept of a woman.
Concept of a woman.
Shout out to Reggie Watts. And I was like, so I asked my coworker, I was like, hey, what's going on there?
What was that?
What was that? And she was like, oh, she was like, I think she's from like Alabama. I think that's just a thing they do.
So
that's just like a Southern hospitality
that's what I was gonna get at.
thing. I was just like, the reason I was so thrown off is like, so, I was born in Texas, wasn't here for very long. Well, for 7 years, but like your 0 to 7's barely a memory. And then like I'll go to Florida, which was most of my formative years, and where we lived in Florida was a very secular place.
Yeah.
And there was like kind of none of that. Yeah. There wasn't a whole lot of Southern influence other than the history classes. Yeah. So
even then
it was pretty fine. People are getting mad at history class. Honestly, okay. People were accusing our high school of being racist. It wasn't. So, long story short, there's no black people at Pineview because there's no black people in the whole county. Anyway, so they were complaining basically that history classes were just making you ask the question, were there other possible reasons for X, Y, and Z related to the Civil War? And made you research those things. That's not indoctrination. That's good teaching. Being hypercritical of complex ideas is a good thing. And then you're getting mad at people trying to be critical at complex ideas.
you know what's indoctrination.
You're the problem.
You know what's indoctrination is
Not allowing the study of evolution.
No, and indoctrination is force-feeding one narrative and believing that's it.
Yeah.
Which is
The opposite of critical thought.
Right.
And research.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting. But yeah, so that's what I was gonna allude to earlier. I was like, I'm pretty sure it's just a Southern hospitality thing. Because in Florida, I never heard like, "Hey love, hey babe, hey blah 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 blah," unless it was like ironic or like we had a relationship type thing.
Or it was a black lady at a fast food restaurant.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I had that a few times at Taco Bell.
But like in Texas here, it's a thing.
It's a thing.
And it throws me off sometimes.
I hate how much Texas is still kind of culturally part of the South.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was hoping for a little more secular nature, and I did not get it. But
I don't know why you thought it was going to be any different.
Big city. Well, because I knew, like, okay, BFE Texas, fucking Waco. I expected that to be what it is.
Or like Amarillo.
Or some shit like that, right?
Yeah.
But I was like, I don't know. I had hope, I guess.
Hope is for the weak.
I'm not sure I agree with that sentiment.
I disagree with it as well. I apologize immediately.
That's one way of handling the situation,
All right.
I guess.
Is there anything else?
I don't think so.
Should I talk about Instagram?
What's about Instagram?
The horror shit on Instagram.
Oh yeah.
So fun stories.
Fuck horror. All my homies hate horror.
So Instagram has started to limit hashtag horror, HORROR, on Instagram. I can actually pull up what it says specifically when you go to search it. It says, posts with words you're searching for often encourage behavior that can cause harm and even lead to death. If you're going through something difficult, we'd like to help. And there's a link for get support, and then you can actually see the results of your search or whatever.
Right.
If you click this button. But it's what it pretty much is saying is posts with the term hashtag horror are encourage behavior that cause harm. So it's causing harm and stuff that can even lead to death. When did art and media cause people to harm themselves? Like I posted because I actually did the thing. Like I saw a bunch of people posting it because I follow a bunch of like dark art styles on Instagram, and so they were talking about it. And I was like, "Oh, is this a thing?" I looked it up. Yep, it's a thing. I go to type it in, and it comes up with this thing. And I posted like, "Didn't we have this discussion about video games already?" Meaning, for the past 20, 30 fucking years, people have been claiming that video games cause violence. Violent video games cause violence, which is proven to not be true and just patently false. So why would horror posts on social media cause people to hurt themselves or kill themselves or whatever? You cannot hold the same. It's the same line of thinking. You cannot hold those two ideas.
Yep. Yeah.
Art and media does not cause people to do these things.
This brings me back to a discussion about they stopped covering suicides on news channels.
Yes. When it was mental health and suicides was the sexiest thing on news for like 3-4 years ago.
Yeah.
And then I even posted this when COVID started. Well, I wonder where all the mental health talk is going to come from now. How that's going to play out.
Right.
Anyways.
It hasn't so far.
No.
And that brings me to a broader thing of like no one has original opinions anymore.
No.
But that's a whole other thing. I just struggle with the concept of not discussing something because it offends people or has negative consequence.
Yeah.
Not to be that guy, but it's a little anti-free speech. It's a little,
Well, so what I posted something about like, so obviously Instagram is eliminating this post because of push from some people within the company to say, hey, it's triggering or like it's problems with mental illness, blah, 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 blah. We shouldn't show these things.
Sure.
So it's a form of canceling to some degree.
Yeah.
What I wonder is I want to know the age group of these people doing this shit because I hate being, I'm 28. I hate being that person that is like, oh, kids these days, blah, 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 blah. But I also don't know anyone my age or older that gives a flying fuck about shit like this.
Nope.
So my question is, do young liberals today not know their history?
No, they clearly don't.
Do they not remember conservatives trying to cancel Marilyn Manson in the 90s for being, quote, the devil reincarnate and the Antichrist?
By the way, those are publicly available statements.
Yeah,
that
you
they
can.
made.
You
That's
can
not
look.
how we're quoting.
You can look.
Yeah,
and that's not new.
It's not
so
new.
like they were saying, oh, it's a horrible influence on kids and blah 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 blah. What happens if the kids see this blah, blah bullshit, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, it's a form of art. It's a form of performance. It didn't cause people to kill themselves. I've been into horror and metal and all this stuff for my entire life, and I've never Well, I did go through a depressive episode, but it's unrelated.
That is genuinely unrelated.
Unrelated.
Yeah.
But it's just like, I don't understand. So then they're doing the same thing. They're trying to cancel some form of this horror artistic stuff because it might affect people or because of kids, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Okay. Aren't you doing the same fucking thing? You think you're doing it for the right reasons, but so did the conservatives in the 90s. They thought they were doing the right thing for the right reasons.
Yeah.
So what makes you different?
Yeah. It's like,
censoring is just not good. It's not good practice.
It's not good. And also, who are you to be the arbiter of virtue?
Right. Conservatives think they have a moral stance, and you hate that they have this moral stance on certain issues, but yet then you profess your moral stance on those issues, but have the same effect of censorship. Your moral stance is no better because you're still doing the same exact thing as the people you claim to hate or you disagree with. So I don't...
Cajun.
It's so Cajun. I don't understand.
It's Cajun.
But that's because it's just virtue signaling and going along with, whatever popular is on Twitter or whatever the fuck. There's no actual critical thought. And that's something I've advocated for my entire adult life is education and critical thought. And it's almost absent now.
Yeah. And I'm even actively saying, don't agree with me.
Yeah, I encourage you to hold my feet to the fire, please.
Please.
If you have a legitimate concern, please voice it and bring it up, and we can have a discussion. I'm open to having a discussion, but you have to have a good argument. You cannot just be like, oh, well, blah, 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 blah. It's like, no, you actually have to think about these things for a second instead of just reacting, because that's all fucking social media is now. And then people complain about social media, like ruining like society or changing humans. It's like as you've said before, society or social media doesn't change society or humans. It just put a mirror up to it.
Yeah.
Like
I was telling shout out to Lisa, the front desk where I work. She's the best. I was talking to her about people want to complain about the shitty leadership we have as if it's not the leadership we deserve.
right.
Right? I was like, if you're going to choose, like, if you look at the political discourse on social media, the leaders we have make a ton of sense because it's a bunch of uninformed people making arguments that are not cogent, voting for people who can't speak.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they deserve.
Oh, speaking of, so the Mr. Potato Head thing
Is now just Potato Head.
Well, the funny thing is, it's the company just changed its name from Mr. Potato Head to.
But
Potato.
the product is the same.
But they're still selling Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head. I think they might have a new like a Potato Head family, non-gender, whatever coming out.
Potato Family.
But they changed it to Potato Head from Mr. Potato Head just so they can have an overarching like conglomerate of a company
of like a product line.
Yeah.
Of Potato Head.
Of Potato Head instead of just being like pigeonholing. I don't think it's a good time. They definitely could have done this when Miss Potato Head came out several years ago. But either way, it's not great timing. But then obviously, some journalists got their views and their clicks by playing it off as, oh, they're getting rid of Mr. Potato Head. Blah, 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 blah. It's like, no.
Yeah.
It's just a company name change. Just from like Google to Alphabet. It's the same thing.
I got a message that said people are scared to take responsibility for their own actions. And I think it's because they partially don't have to.
So that's the thing we've talked about for the past year is it's just personal responsibility be damned. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Everything is society's fault. You never have to confront your own issues or fix your own problems. Whether or not they're your fault, you still have to confront them because they're your issues and no one else's.
Which, by the way, is a super nihilist stance. Which is a lot of the reason that like the far left makes it really fucking difficult to support. Because it's like, on some level, I want to agree with what you're going for. But I can't start with nihilism as like the root of all problems.
No.
Like that's not that's your fault. That's
Well, one of the analysis I've heard of, like, the whole, like, burn it all down kind of talk and stuff like that is because
which has subsided for the most part.
but it's because you burn it all down, you just start from zero because it can't get any worse. It's like
it can get a lot fucking worse.
it can grow to be something worse that you don't like, but it's just like hey,
it can get, dude.
people are very privileged.
I was saying this the other day. I was like, I don't. The person who messaged me, I was talking to them yesterday, and I was like, I don't want to complain about my life because look at my life. I'm able to spend my spare time streaming.
Yeah,
it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Right. But
that's how we get our clicks, is complaining, bro. Gotta get them clicks. This is
I
the
was
Twitch
just
form
like,
of Twitter.
I have missed out on like 5K worth of stimmies at this point.
Yeah,
for questionable reasons, but whatever. I'm fine.
it is what it is. I get that new stimmy on Wednesday, brah.
That's a good point. It's like Tide Pods. They blamed the product rather than the people who ate it, saying it looked edible.
Yes.
Yeah, the packaging said keep away from children. For that, I mean, probably for that reason.
Obviously, there's going to be shitheads out there that do some dumb shit. People have been ingesting bleach on purpose or on accident for a long time. Like, since I was a kid.
We've been huffing markers forever.
Yeah, nitrous oxide and whippets were a thing back when I was a kid.
Yep.
Like, people do dumb shit. That's just what it is. People are dumb sometimes.
Like, consumer protection laws are some of the best laws we have out there in terms of product safety.
Yeah.
So to start blaming products for you not following the label is just horrendous.
It's the same reason people blame social media and phones for bad parenting. It's like, well, if you don't let the technology parent your child, but you were just a bad parent
but
to begin
also,
with.
where did they get that technology?
Exactly.
You gave it to them.
Yeah.
Because they don't have money.
Because you didn't want a parent.
Because you don't want a parent.
You just want
Yeah.
the technology parent. But it's just like, yeah, people blaming products for things that they could obviously fix or change. Like the only social media I have now is Instagram. Well, we'll talk about Facebook in a second. But the only social media I have is Instagram, and it is very curated. It's art, science, and music shit. And that's it. And then obviously some political stuff every now and then when people post about it, when something big happens. But it's very bland. It's very curated to what I want. I don't ever see anything about influencer shit. I don't see anything about just dumb like models or Kim K or whatever. Pick a topic. I don't see anything. So like when people blame social media for certain things, it's like, well, you didn't take the time to curate your shit.
So what you just mentioned and this last chat falls into the next topic I wanted to cover was would y'all agree that it's Gen Z looking for views or actually blame the individuals? I'm gonna say both. Because
yes.
but mostly, so here's the thing, it's like just because it's a meme, here's my problem with, and I'm speaking on adults being idiots mostly, but also we're at the point where every kid has grown up with an iPhone sewn into their hand
or some form of
right.
Smartphone or access to the internet.
I think they should know better by now as well. Is that if you're doing something only because you keep seeing on social media, that removes from the equation all discussion of your personal agency, which is not a discussion I can get behind. Right? It's an extreme case, but these things have to work in the extremes. There's a thing I read about. There was a girl who cheated on her boyfriend because she thought he was, quote, a lazy bum because they weren't going on like whatever vacations and stuff she saw on Instagram. And then now he's like, a successful dude with a wife and kids, and she like wants it back. And I'm like, well, okay, here's the thing. This is the exact conversation about personal agency. Because I'm not going to buy that you were influenced by all of that. I will buy that you were a shitty person who felt enabled by seeing it. I think it starts with you, and it's what you resonate with that you see. And social media, by virtue of wanting to keep you on the app, is really good at keeping feeding you what you resonate with the most and what you interact with the most. And it does not differentiate between rage and happiness. Not that those are inherently two different feelings.
A comment is a comment, whether it's positive or negative.
So it's the
a
things
like
you,
is a like.
It's the things you engage with the most. It'll keep feeding you. The things you engage with the most are the things you resonate with. That's why we have, in the marketing world, you have love marks. For us, that would be Express, right? Stuff like that. There are people that are just diehard Bose headphones wearers for whatever fucking reason. We saw this with Beats in the early 2010s. And the list goes on and on and on. And Rolex, fucking name a brand, right? Nike,
Apple.
And so, brand resonance is a thing. Resonance with certain topics is a thing. I just think social media is just one big giant mirror.
Well, so my whole thing is like, okay, the advent of social media has made it brings people together, which is great, but it's also a double-edged sword because then you have groups like flat earthers and anti-vaxxers that can get together. But the thing is, social media didn't create them.
Right.
They were already dumb idiots to begin with. They just congregated over an idea that they thought was,
and by the way,
whatever.
I like that that's a thing.
And it's fine. It's fine. But to say that it's social media's fault is also wrong because the whole they drank the Kool-Aid thing was because people would go to the fucking desert and kill themselves in the 70s based on this same cult following shit.
Which, by the way, I think is a worse outcome than we're seeing with social media.
That's the thing. It's like it's not new. None of this is new.
It's not. Read a fucking history book.
Not even a history book. It's just read a fucking book because this is all within the last 50, 60 years. It's not even that.
Let's call it 50 years.
It's not even that long ago.
No, it's not. It's not.
But fuck us for, actually thinking outside of
I'm trying to figure out how we went from a discussion about, because this was in 2012. California, the Circuit Court in California ruled that video games were art and therefore could not be censored for violence.
Yep.
And now serial killer documentaries are the whole meme of Netflix right now. How did we end up there?
Oh, I have my theories on it. I don't know how we ended up there.
Is Minnesota trying to block Grand Theft Auto now?
I honestly have no idea.
I think I read that. I think it was Minnesota.
That wouldn't surprise me. Grand Theft Auto has had problems since its inception. So
yeah, but where's the well, actually, I take that back. Because in the 80s and 90s, there was the same backlash against Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
But everyone has just accepted that that's what Mortal Kombat does.
Yeah.
But I don't know why we haven't. Violence is a whole other thing that, it goes back to the horror thing. It's like, I don't know fucking anyone on the planet that has played GTA and went, I'm going to go steal a car now.
Well, yeah, that, or it's like,
doesn't exist.
Well, there's always, I think I just saw a fucking headline about gamer male kills gamer female over something. I want to say, it was a very, I didn't really look that hard into it, but from what I think I saw, I remember it was they were playing COD, and the guy knew that the female might have had epilepsy or something like that through a flashbang, and then she had a seizure and died. I don't remember. I want to say that's...
Wow. That's
we could look it up, but I want to say that's what it was. Either way. So, wow. But news for the past 20 years has always used fringe cases like this, where it's mentally disturbed people who play a thing that millions of people play and don't have problems. And then they do something, and then they blame the game as if millions of other people aren't that fucking crazy.
Well, okay,
you don't take a normal person. I've played video games literally since I was 2 years old.
Yeah. You and me both, yeah.
And so I've never once been like, oh, I want to kill that person because I played COD for 10 years. It's not a thing.
No, it's not. You're just, well, it's the...
My road rage might stem from Mario Kart, but...
Honestly, if you saw the way people drive in Dallas, you would road rage too.
Oh, so, I need to turn now. I forgot to turn. I have to turn right and bump over 3 lanes and fuck other cars. But,
Do the other cars get COVID?
Oh, they got to stay 6 feet apart. If they're within 6 feet, they automatically get COVID.
I know. I think... What was the discussion? It was like, if the 2 cars hit, then by the transitive property of 5G...
The
other car gets COVID.
Yes.
through the tailpipe.
Yes.
That's how that gets in.
Does America have 5G yet?
Yes.
Okay, it does now.
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
Some
parts
cities
of it.
do. Yeah,
Some cities do. Yeah.
Okay.
Where's my Google Fiber? Is my big question. I was supposed to come in my freshman year of college. Where's my Google Fiber? Anyway, that's another discussion. But yeah, that flashbang incident brings me to a couple of analogies where like it's not that video games make you violent or that a certain religion makes you violent. It's a violent person acting within that sphere.
Yes.
Like there are monks that have slaughtered women and children. But we're going to call Buddhism violent? No.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Exactly.
So and also that's let's assume that was the case. I want to run with it as like an experiment.
Sure.
If nothing else. God, like, because in order to prove
You'd
murder,
have
it's
to
an
prove intent.
intentionality
Yeah,
thing.
you'd have to prove intent.
And Jesus Christ, it's going to be really hard to prove intent using an in-game mechanic that millions of other people use.
Right. I think you would have to prove that the two know each other, and then you would have to prove that somehow he knew that she had epilepsy or something like that.
That the flashbang would create some sort of problem. My response to that is, if you have epilepsy, don't fucking play Call of Duty.
Well, that was the whole thing with fucking
Like, that's
Cyberpunk.
kind of on you for putting yourself in that situation.
That's the thing about Cyberpunk is apparently there was a non-skippable thing
Oh, that was super, yeah.
that was apparently very visually stimulating and could have caused epilepsy. And some people, I don't know if this is true, some people are claiming that the flashing light, the actual frequency of the lights or what in the colors was, it's used in labs to cause epileptic seizures.
That's a bold claim.
That
I gotta
is,
see
it
the
is
receipts for that
it
one.
is a very bold claim, and to say and just have an egg account on Twitter say that, and then obviously people run
It's
with
true.
it. And it's like obviously it's true. It's like where's the study?
Where's the info on that
Where's the
one?
info? Where's all the information on that? But either way, if you know you have visual epilepsy and you can have seizures from flashing lights, we've had video games for 30 plus years. You should know not to play video games. It's the same people who have a peanut allergy. They know not to fucking go around peanuts. It's like
Not that hard to figure out.
they don't go around and be like walking down the peanut butter aisle and open a jar of
Just
peanut
huffing peanut butter.
Yeah, it's just huff or whatever, or like they go over to someome's house, someone's eating a PBJ, and they're like, "Hey, you can't eat that!" Blah 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 blah. They just step away.
Yep.
It's not like, it's not other. So this goes into my point that I think I brought up a couple weeks ago or something like that. It's people trying to fill a void in their heart or have some form of acceptance from other people rather than filling that void themselves. They are not happy in some form or whatever,
Right.
so they put that happiness on other people. Whether it be a trans issue, whether it be some form
of sympathy points. They want to
sympathy
garner.
points, victimhood, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
But the thing is, that's not new. Teenagers have been going through that for 50 years, so it's
Probably
like,
all of humanity.
probably all of humanity. So it's just like
Acceptance from their social groups.
Yeah.
That's all of humanity.
yeah, and then part of maturing is learning how to not use others' opinions to fill that void. That's part of maturing and becoming an adult.
Yep.
So whenever I see people doing this dumb shit and claiming victimhood and people like, oh, other people shouldn't be doing this, it's like, I don't know. Did you do the work to get over it? Because I feel like you didn't.
Probably not.
Like, there's obvious situations where people just shouldn't do dumb shit. Like, hey, don't be racist. But at the same time, you're never going to get rid of racism. That's always going to be a thing. Among people of the same fucking skin color, there's racism. Asian racism is a thing. So it's just like...
yeah, when there's a differentiation between fancy and jungle Asians.
Like, it's...
So...
And the thing is, I've met and been with and friends with a bunch of different Asian people of like Vietnamese, Filipina, Chinese, Japanese. They all acknowledge that there is a hierarchy
Of Asians.
of Asians. Whether or not they believe in it,
Which
they
is kinda
they
they
know.
all know it's there.
So racism is not going to go away as much as we would all like it to.
No.
Don't be racist, or don't be dumb. Don't be don't be a shithead. Don't be an idiot. But at the same time, you're not going to completely get rid of shit. And so you have to understand that as an adult, people are going to be dumb. People are going to be stupid. People are going to be people. You cannot let other people's opinions of yourself affect you. You have to know who you are and be okay with that. Your self-esteem is not my issue.
Effectively. Yeah, my only comment on that is if you're speaking to someone and they get offended over something that's not inherently wrong to say, then that's their problem.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the definition of being an adult is realizing that nobody knows what's best for you other than you.
Right.
Which goes back to the personal agency thing.
Yep.
And it's like, there's no one in your life that's ever going to figure out things better for you than you.
And sometimes you don't even know what you want, and that's fine.
And that's fine. And I get that it's kind of scary, but it's also the only way forward.
Right.
Because if you're going to sit around and wait for other people to solve your problems, it's never going to get solved. Because no one fucking cares about other people more than they care about themselves.
That's the funny thing is people always claim other people are so selfish, and yeah,
they should be.
Other people are selfish, but that's because most people only give a shit about themselves. Why would you expect other people to give a shit about you when you don't give enough of a shit about yourself? You have to be selfish as well.
Yeah.
No one else is going to care enough about you other than you.
I had a discussion not too long ago with our friend Michael, and we were talking about reasons to vote, basically. And I said everyone should vote in as selfish a manner as possible.
Yeah.
And they should only think about themselves.
Yeah.
Here is the argument. If you vote with other people's opinions in mind, there will be no change. Because if everyone is all worried about the people around them getting X access to Y things, who gives a shit? Because if everyone votes as selfish as they possibly can, what is the decision that's going to benefit me? Now, this makes a couple of assumptions on the democratic system.
I was about to say.
This makes a couple of assumptions.
Yeah.
Right?
Completely effective government.
I was like, one, it assumes you have a representative government that actually listens to what the people have to say.
Yeah,
it makes the assumption that money's not a factor.
Right.
Which it shouldn't be. But it is. So
yeah, it's an idealistic view, and I agree with it, but it's not very pragmatic, especially with today's the way governments run today in the U.S.
Well, my response to that is ultimately, I have no reason to really care about my government institutions at this point. It is clear they're unable to police the things that affect us the most.
Yep.
End of story.
Yep.
I have no faith in my government at this point.
Yep.
So, whatever you want to make. Now, that's where they're like, Austin, that sounds kind of nihilist.
That sounds very cynical. Well,
it's very cynical. I would stop being cynical if they stopped giving me reasons to be.
Right.
Is my ultimate, like, and I think I've mentioned this on stream before. Other than the 2015 court decision to legalize gay marriage, name me a law or a decision that was instituted for actual moral grounds.
Moral grounds?
Or for the betterment of people.
People would automatically react and say Roe v. Wade, but it wasn't a moral thing.
It was not a moral
scientific.
Stance.
It's the reason they said,
Yeah, you can make arguments of legislating from the bench, but also go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
Is my response to that.
But like, just as a quick thing, like Roe v. Wade was based on the viability of a fetus outside the womb, and at that current technology that they had was in the 50s. When was Roe v. Wade?
I'm gonna, just for accuracy on this one, Roe v. Wade. 73.
Oh yeah, I was off. Definitely. Okay, so 1973.
The pictures are in color.
The technology at the time made the viability of the fetus outside of the womb at just after the second trimester.
Yeah.
And so that's why we allow abortions and stuff like that up to the second trimester, unless in the third trimester either Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. Yeah, if it harms the mother.
By the way, Roe v. Wade takes a very reasonable stance on abortion.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, there's actually talks within the scientific community about pushing that abortion limit up because technology has gotten so much better that
The viability of fetuses outside the womb has become so much better.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Which I'm on board with 100%. So
I'm fine with, I guess. I think the second trimester I think it's a solid cutoff. It's fine.
I have no. It also.
It makes sense. You have 6 months.
I also don't think you can unilaterally levy that
No.
raise in limitation, let's call it.
Yeah.
Because I don't like. It also comes down to reasonable access to a given resource.
Right.
Again, fringe case that doesn't quite exist yet, but like artificial wombs would technically make like this would probably never happen. Shouldn't say never because biovariability gets pretty insane. But let's say you were induced into labor at 4 months and then you had to put the developing thing into an artificial womb and you were able to do that instead of killing it. I think on a Kantian philosophical ground, you should put it in the womb.
Yeah.
But for a long time, the number of people who are going to have actual access to that resource very limited to the rich and wealthy.
Yeah.
You know, so that's going to be hard to unilaterally raise the limit on that. Although Texas has tried. So
you know what's super funny is people were all for quarantine at the beginning of COVID. And I thought it was a little bit of a overreaction. And people were okay with government overreach in that respect. And I wasn't really. But you know what people in California, it was a more liberal state. I'm sure they didn't have problems like this, but in Texas, whenever they started quarantine and locked the state down effectively, at the same exact time, they banned abortion for the duration of quarantine. They banned surgical abortions. Or surgical?
I don't know what the actual delineation was.
It's 5 weeks. So there's surgical and
anything that's
medical.
not an outpatient.
They banned surgical abortions, which means after 5 weeks.
Yeah.
Because one of my friends found out she was pregnant at the beginning of quarantine.
Oh, that's right.
And was able to get a medical
Right.
abortion because she found out and was found out within the 5 weeks and got a medical abortion, and that's fine. But they banned surgical abortions.
Too, though.
They banned surgical abortions for the duration of quarantine.
That was
And
opportunistic.
as if you didn't fucking think a Republican state was going to do that during a government overreach period, you're an idiot.
Right.
Like they're already doing government overreach. You don't think they're going to take advantage?
Government overreach is unilateral.
You don't think they're going to take advantage of that situation and try to push their own agenda? You're wrong.
Right.
It's dumb. So like people are like, oh, quarantine, I'm okay with government overreach as long as it's for safety. It's like, it could be for safety, but also you don't think there's going to be other problems.
I have no reason to decide to determine that you're the arbiter of virtue.
Yes.
I have no reason to believe that your intentions are better than mine.
Exactly.
Or better than anyone else's. But we're team risk over here. For the most part.
We are very non-risk averse.
Facts.
We are risk active. Not risk seeking. I don't think we're risk seeking inherently. I don't
Kind of.
I don't
Very
Jones,
low level risk seeking.
Yes. Educated risk seeking.
Jimmy to the moon, bro. Source, trust me.
Because I'm not over here like Jones and like, hey man, I need to. Where's the risk? I need my fix, man. I need my dopamine.
Got any more of that? Get any more of that risk, bro?
Where's that?
Bro, where's the risk? Where's the fucking risk, bro? Where's the fucking
I
risk?
need my adrenaline, man.
Where's my risk?
No. But I'm not like if if it makes sense in my life to go in a direction where it is definitely very risk heavy, I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not like, oh, what about this? What about that? I'm like,
Well,
what about this? Okay, how do we get over that? How do we keep that from happening? Okay, cool. Let's move forward.
So this is where, so we're both very liberal people.
Yeah,
But-
that's the thing. On top of this, some people would automatically assume we're conservatives. Like, we're not, though. We're just not fucking idiots.
That's the thing. It's like, we're actually really liberal guys. Here's the thing. We're very nuanced, and we're willing to dive in that nuance where others are not.
No.
And
Doesn't make for good Twitter content. But
no, it does not.
We're not on Twitter.
But we're not on Twitter, so it's fine. For that exact reason, actually. Well, the big thing about like not being risk averse type B is that I did not like the shutdown for a variety of reasons, but the main one was like so the argument was like for other people's safety. And okay, I can understand where that sentiment reaches, but only to a certain extent. Because why are you worried about my safety if I'm not worried about my safety?
Right.
And why do you get to decide whose concern for safety is better?
Right.
That's where I started drawing the line. Is because, like, I'll wear a mask. That's not the fight I was going to pick up. Because that's really not that big a deal.
Yeah,
right?
I have my problems.
But if
with
I
it,
could
yeah.
wear a mask and otherwise go about my life, fine.
Yeah.
It doesn't materially impact my life that bad, if at all.
Right.
Other than, like, sometimes I have to scrounge around for 30 more seconds before I go to the gym and be like, fuck, where'd I put my mask? If that's the worst of it, okay, fine.
For me, it's just annoying because I had to deal with the beard situation.
Yeah.
But other
Okay.
than that, yeah.
Complain more about your life. I know what you. The big thing for me was, like, everyone knew what was going on. And so that's why even the mask thing, I was kind of like, is this necessary? Because here's the deal. Yes, there's the essential workers case, which even then, pragmatically speaking, isn't much of a concern because most of them are young anyway, and young people aren't dying of COVID in a broad sense.
When what's the? It's like 80 to 90% of people are like age 60 or older.
What was it, like 70% of COVID deaths were in nursing homes?
Yeah, something like
I
that.
was like, what the fuck are we talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
People who are gonna die anyways.
was it 8 out of 10 COVID hospitalizations were obese?
Yeah.
Weird. It's like we already knew the two major comorbidities of COVID were obesity and age. So if you're us, you don't have to be concerned.
Well,
where we're young and healthy.
Well, the thing is, we're not the only two people who have this thought. I've had
No,
other people
I know.
at the bar say like, "Oh, my 92-year-old grandma died of COVID," but they say she died of COVID.
She was
But
92.
but she's like, she could have died from the flu. Was it COVID that killed her? Like she had other things. She was 92. She's old. She was gonna die of something. So
Yeah, I mean, if you're 92, like our grandma's 93.
yeah, she's not gonna die because her body's fine. She's part fucking cyborg at this point. But
She has 4 fake joints and a pacemaker?
5, I think.
5?
She's got a shoulder, a knee,
2 knees?
2 knees, a hip, a pacemaker, and I want to say another one. Maybe she only has 4.
2 hips?
Maybe.
One hip. One hip. She
One
has
hip.
one real hip.
1 hip, 1 shoulder,
2 knees,
2 knees.
I think.
Yeah. And she's fine. Body's fine. It's her mental capacity that's going.
Which is the major sign of your time's coming.
And which is because she's 93.
Because
And
she's 93. That's what happens.
You know what? She's our last living grandparent.
Yeah.
And it has been for
That's been the case for a while.
has been for 14 years.
Yeah.
Our grandpa died when I was 13. So it's been almost 15
Almost
years.
coming up on 15. Yeah.
So we've had this discussion as a family with our parents being like, hey, it's been a joke, but also not a joke for the last like 7 years. Like, hey, grandma might be, on her way out kind of thing, but she keeps fucking going. Somehow she keeps fucking going. She might be a centenarian, whatever, however,
Centenarian?
something like that.
I
That's another 7 years though.
don't
That's a
think
while.
she makes it.
I-
But being honest,
Mentally, I don't know, but it's like, as a family, you should have this discussion, and it's okay to have these open discussions about this stuff like that. But to say like, one death is too many, or
False.
we should
False.
we should save all these old people. It's like, I don't want to be ageist, but at the same time, if you're 85 or older, you've lived past the average age.
And I'm for taking reasonable precautions to protect you, but they're not to protect me.
Yes.
I'm not the person that needs protecting.
Right.
Why are we determining that I need protecting?
Right.
That's what I don't like.
Right.
Is that I don't, up to a certain extent, I don't like it when the government tells me what level of risk I can take on.
Right. I'm all for helping people via government, but for them, the government to say, "Hey, you can't do this," not you shouldn't, you can't. That's wrong, because that's the whole point of a free democracy. Yeah, okay, you shouldn't yell fire in a crowded theater. We all agree that there's some limitations to certain things.
But to say I don't understand when I started being held responsible for a biological agent we're both aware exists.
Right.
Right. This is not a situation where I might have AIDS and I'm not telling anybody.
Yeah.
Right. Which, by the way, if you lie about having AIDS, that's also a crime.
It is a crime.
So we actually determined that was wrong.
Yeah.
But that's not the. Everyone knows COVID's a thing. So my thing is the line is not drawn at me transmitting COVID to you. The line is drawn as you chose to go outside.
So, right.
That's where I draw the line.
So
I went outside knowing what the risk was.
Mm-hmm.
You went outside knowing what the risk was. Stop getting mad at me about it.
right. Well, that's the thing is
You
everyone.
don't have to go outside. We have all of the technology and ability in the world to not leave your house if you don't have to.
The technology.
If you have to go work, that's another case.
The technology we have right now with this setup is exactly
exactly the tech we're talking
what
about.
almost everyone has now too.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that was the thing. I was getting bitched at by my friends on Facebook at the beginning of COVID, being like I didn't care enough or whatever. It's like you take some form of responsibility for other people every time you step in your own car. It's just not in your face as it was with COVID.
Yeah.
And with COVID, it wouldn't even have been in your face if the media didn't fucking fearmonger you into everything. But every time you step into your car, you take responsibility for other people's life. That's why we don't drink and drive, shit like that. It makes sense. But that's the thing is okay, everyone was saying, oh, well, what about the people who go out then have to go back home to their grandmas? Well, it's also their responsibility.
Don't go home to grandma.
Well, not just that. It's also their responsibility to not go out.
Right.
If you could bring something back home to a compromised relative, then you take the responsibility to not go out. That should not be my responsibility.
No, it's not.
I don't have that problem. You do.
Yeah.
So it's so fucking weird.
In no other time in human history have I been responsible for someone else's health.
Right. Exactly. I shouldn't be responsible.
Don't know why we're starting
I
now.
shouldn't be responsible for someone's grandma a state away. That's not my responsibility, period.
And to a certain extent, it's we'll have to go work. Find a different job where you don't have to leave then. They exist. You have a computer. You know how to use Excel at a fucking 5th grade level. Get a data entry job. Pays the same.
Yeah. I mean, I push back on that idea a little bit.
I push back on it too.
Yeah.
But I'm saying if push came to shove,
oh yeah,
you have the options.
If you have to, if you just feel so scared about going to your job, there are things you can do to remedy that situation. Mm-hmm. You just have to do the work.
Yeah, I'm not saying again.
I'm
not saying that's a super viable option.
But that's the thing is that goes back to us not being risk averse.
Well, because we've lived this.
Well, not just that.
That's
It's with every decision in your life, there are options you have to weigh. There are pros and cons to everything you do.
Yep.
Just because you're confronting it now doesn't mean it's bad.
Right. Right.
If you were an essential worker during the quarantine, I feel for you and I get it. But at the same time, you have two decisions. continue working and be okay with that risk, or take the risk of leaving your job to find a new one. You just have to be okay with risk. These are unprecedented times. Unprecedented times call for drastic times call for drastic measures.
Yeah.
Sorry you lived a very comfortable, or maybe not comfortable, but normal-ish life up until this point. We all did, and now it's changed.
Yep.
Sorry.
Again, I push back on my statement too, but to what extent are we going to stop feeling sorry for people?
Well, it's okay. So even if you take COVID out of the situation, and there's like, okay, so 4 years ago, when I quit grad school, I was in a very precarious financial situation that I didn't have money. I was very in debt with my credit cards, and I didn't have money to afford an apartment. So I lived out of my car for 3 months. That was a decision I made. Yeah. I could have asked other people for help. I could have moved in with people and tried to beg and all this other shit. And you could say that part of it is like pride and not relying on other people. Sure. But I just don't like inconveniencing other people. And all of the financial problems I had were my own fault. I took sole responsibility for those problems, and it was my responsibility to fix it. So I did what I had to do in order to move forward. And that's what it was. So was it risky? Sure. But also, you take responsibility and you do with what you do. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
So I feel for people. I'm empathetic towards people that go through shit, but at the same time, you're not going to get out of it until you actually work to get out of it. So, crazy
times.
Crazy.